word if you have not. Who was the star of the show last night for the NFL draft?
I think the Bears were, because they got two excellent players. They're not going to be the star of the show for the rest of the draft because they only have two more picks. But, I like the Bears, and I would say the dud of the night was the Falcons. I like Michael Penix. I think he's going to be a great quarterback in the league. He's a really good passer, but the Falcons just gave $100 million guaranteed to Kirk Cousins, so it's not like he's not going to play for them, and they're not helping him by drafting his heir apparent already.
I think as far as actual players, I think you have to say Chicago. I mean, based simply on the fact you've got Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze on the same offense now. That's fantasy booking at its finest right there. That's something that you try and pull off on Madden, but you're not always necessarily going to be able to do. And just favor and timing worked out for the Bears to where they were able to land both of those guys. And you had a thought that was in some mocks, or a combination such as that was in some mocks with the two high picks that they had, but still to actually get it done and for it to be real and to be able to put up Williams and Odunze jerseys and whatnot in your pro shop and start to market around those guys, I think just provides a incredible jolt to the city of Chicago and to the Bears fandom. So I think that's easily the biggest headline players-wise. But the star of the show last night, the stars of the show were the analysts and Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. Those, to me, were the stars of the show because whether you were watching the McAfee feed with Belichick or you were watching the College Game Day feed with Nick Saban, and I forget who was even on the other one. That one I didn't even touch. The main broadcast, actually, is the one I watched the least amount of by far, because I was sitting there just soaking in what Belichick was saying and Saban was saying. And Saban in particular I spent the most time on. And because he has recruited most of these guys or knows something about most of these guys, scouting against them or just being around the game long enough, he almost made everybody else up there look bad because their analysis compared to his was so sophomoric I mean, that's not the right word, but it was so almost amateur sounding compared to how in-depth he could go with some of these guys because of the personal relationships and all of that. So I thought to have those two wise men of football a part of broadcast and able to get in there and kind of break things down, that to me was very cool. And there's certainly a lot more to come from both those guys in the media world. I don't get real caught up in sports media stuff, but I do think having those two as a part of events like that or College Game Day or NFL whatever moving forward is going to be pretty cool to hear and pick their brains and hear what they have to say on just kind of every week topics.
Caleb Williams, Craig, you brought him up. His merchandise sales on the night of the draft, Caitlin Clark had just had that monstrous night with the WNBA draft a couple of weeks ago. He set the jersey record for draft night sales in any sport. And the NFL is 100. There's no number that's bigger than anything else that is in sports in the United States. With all due respect to the rise of women's basketball, he did it with his new jersey. What number is he going to wear, Paul?
I have no idea.
18.
18, okay.
18 is going to be his number. And you're right, Odunze as a weapon, he went, golly.
Showing no respect to Mike Tomczak.
I know. Or Kyle Orton, for that matter.
I mean,
or Dante Pettis, who had also once worn number 18. So Craig brought up Nick Saban. I could not agree more. I thought, and I've always liked to listen to him. I always used to go and, whether it's his show that he did on TV with Eli Gold or just his pressers, just maybe his tone or whatever, his voice, his accent, plus, oh my God, he's won so many national titles. I thought he was absolutely freaking brilliant, and I could not stop watching that channel, which I guess was ABC is what I was watching most of the night.
I watched NFL Network for a good while because I really enjoy Rich Eisen on the draft, and I've always liked Daniel Jeremiah. I think they've got a good thing going there. Joel Klatt's on that one. So they have good, and so that's where I started watching, and then Craig texts like, "Hey, Saban is killing it over here, on the other broadcast." So I flipped over, And I flipped over just in time to see him admit to tampering in the portal.
Yep, I saw that. I saw that.
We're trying to get Quinyon Mitchell. He wouldn't go in the portal.
Here's the exact quote, since you brought it up, right? He was our number one guy in the portal last year to try to get him to come out of the portal, and we could never get him in the portal. And that was, that was interesting. And, of course, a lot of people noticed that very quickly. So that's from Mike Rodak on his Twitter feed.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty hilarious, all the different things that happened. But, yeah, I think that they have great – Mike Rodak had a bunch of stuff from
We'll get to
Saban.
the other two in just a second. Yeah.
But, yeah, so leave him up there. But I thought he was great. He has insight. Especially the first-rounders, like even the guys he didn't get – like, he recruited almost all of them.
Or
like
played against them.
You're played against them. And so he has this knowledge that maybe a lot of people don't have. Now, granted, 3 years from now, that's over. But I don't think that'll stop with his ability to observe things. But especially like now in the short term, he just knew so much, and it was crazy good. And he just adds a spark to that group of people. For sure.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, it almost made them feel like amateur hour besides him because their reviews of players were just so lacking compared to his, you know what I mean? And so it was great, but it also was like, damn, Dez and Kirk, like, y'all are going to have to really step your games up to like sound like you belong with him in comparison. So, yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun on College Game Day. However involved he is on a weekly basis, that's going to be money for ESPN. And like I said, I don't really get much into the sports media stuff, but that was definitely something that stood out to me last night. It was just like, wow, this is pretty cool to listen to Nick Saban talk about all these players that he's coached against, recruited, coached. Obviously, there's multiple Bama guys. He's played against Georgia. He's played against Texas. He's played against LSU. He's, recruited most of these guys, again, to say that. But, yeah, I just thought that was awesome and definitely a welcome change. I forgot about I don't have NFL Network, so I couldn't have watched that anyways. But what the main ESPN one was the one that I just wasn't even
never even
paying
turned to it
attention
because I couldn't get off ABC.
Yeah, because I was mostly watching that. Or, like I said, Belichick with McAfee. That was really good stuff as well. Belichick showing a different side to his personality. Saw a lot of folks that don't like him as a Patriots head coach, but are already fans of his as a media guy. And so have those two guys in the same night with the NFL draft, giving their breakdowns from their different points of view was certainly a different kind of thing from just the typical draft coverage and just what we walk away with our opinions on picks. It just provided something kind of new and cool, so I enjoyed that.
Has anyone won more Super Bowls than Belichick?
No.
Anyone won more national championships than Saban?
No.
So you have those two guys who all of a sudden are in the analyst business on television, and Belichick's his personality's like watching paint dry or grass grow, but the guy knows football. Like Matt Rule said, is that he is you can't he knows so much that guys like Rule and his staff were just dumbfounded by how much information they could learn.
Yeah, and I don't think that's really true about his personality. I think if you watch some of it last night, you see he's got a personality. It's just that we saw the grizzled
about the press conferences. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying is we saw the grizzled coach up at the podium not wanting to be there every week, and that's not who's on TV. That's Bill Belichick's actually on TV, not the coach Bill Belichick. So there is a major difference there, which is why I think so many people, as I pointed out, were saying like, wow, I didn't like this guy, but now I do because I didn't realize he was funny. I didn't realize he was, goofing around with the boys and all that kind of stuff. So, he's already shown a different side of himself, and so we're going to be blessed with some pretty brilliant minds in football analysis over the coming, couple years and however long beyond that.
And then obviously the Terry and Arnold, who was drafted near the end of the first round, Detroit picked him. That's the second one. I want to read this because it was so cool. And he shows this, again, this kind of sense of humor. He talks about he's a special guy, great personality, loves him. Everybody loves him. He came up with the length thing, let all naysayers know. He sort of followed it, sort of committed himself to being the best player and a leader. Miss Terry's favorite, they're close. Of course, that's his wife, Terry Saban, who's very much involved in the program as far as because of who she is, and that's Miss Terry's favorite. So he also had her liking him too.
Well, yeah, and they've got. I mean, there's so many players you can talk about. Just so many. And Terry and Arnold in the first round, J.C. Latham in the first round that he had. So, going to have more to talk about over the next couple days. It was wild to watch, and I'm sure we had Jeff Traylor on yesterday, who just sounded beat down by this last week and waiting for the transfer portal to close. And then you have Nick Saban, who just left the top of the mountaintop, saying
and doesn't have to worry about any of it.
Doesn't worry about it, but we really wanted to get this guy in the portal, and he wouldn't do it. Yeah.
By the way, on the Terry and Arnold now being teamed with Brian Branch, another Alabama guy, he's talking about he's the natural star. That's that position that has become that safety and linebacker type clone or hybrid, like Baylor and Jalen Petrie, among others. There's not a lot of guys you can find to do that. You can find to do it right. And so that was another note he had about those two being on the same Lions roster. All right. Polynesia. There were 15% of the top 20 players selected during the draft with the representation 1/3 of 1% of the U.S. population. Paul sent that one in. I thought that was a pretty cool one.
And look, I spent almost a month the last 2 years combined in Hawaii, and every time I told somebody what I did, like if I'm sitting at a bar or I was in a car or something, and they say, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I have a podcast. I talk mostly about football. This, I would say, the per capita love of football in that region of the world compares to it here. How much they love the sport. Now, they don't have gigantic high schools. I mean, in fact, our high school stadium's outside of Punahou, which is a big, gigantic high school. And even then, Punahou wouldn't register on the, middle range of a 4A school, as far as what the stadiums are here. But, they love it. They absolutely love football. That's all Well, everybody want to talk to me about Tua.
Yeah,
guys.
A lot of influence with USC, UCLA, Washington, BYU, Utah, with a lot of influence with those players from the Polynesia background. How the hell did we can get into Michael Penix in Atlanta, and we will. But what's the deal with Bo Nix going that early, too?
Yeah, I think part of it was the Broncos felt they needed to come out of there with a quarterback. Sean Payton sees him as a guy who's similar to Drew Brees in stature. And look, Drew Brees did not have the best arm strength in the world. He wasn't, but he wound up being one of the all-time leading passer for a little while before Tom Brady broke that record. But Drew Brees and Bo Nix are definitely not the same guy. Sean Payton feels like he can coach him up. That's fine, but
wouldn't he have gotten him?
But I think that's the problem. They don't pick again until 76.
Okay,
so
right.
There's a lot of picks there. So they said, well, if this is our guy, we'll go get him. But yeah, they need more picks and more players. The Broncos have a lot longer way to go, I think, than Sean Payton even realized. They traded Jerry Jeudy to the Browns, and that was a player that most people liked, but couldn't really stay healthy, and then never had a good quarterback there. And now there's talk of them maybe even trading Cortland Sutton as well. And to me,
SMU.
that would be a very bad move, because Cortland Sutton's a good player. Again, never had good quarterback play, but might find his way to another team.
How many quarterbacks were taken after Bo Nix?
None.
Zero. So it was a run on quarterbacks. That's what it was, and he was the last guy that somebody felt was worthy enough of a first-round pick. Whether Denver's right or wrong, I mean, somebody's going to be wrong in this many quarterbacks taken this highly. There's going to be teams that look really stupid. Atlanta probably leading the list right now, just with one day in the books. We'll see what other goofy decisions are made, but it's going to be hard to top what Atlanta did with Michael Penix. But, I mean, once they did that, then it was all bets are off. I mean, the Vikings are going to take a quarterback. I said J.J. McCarthy, by the way, and they found a way. They didn't have to trade up to get him. They just sat where they were. Or I guess they went up a spot.
I think that to guarantee they got him.
To guarantee they got him.
So the Broncos are right there.
Yeah, so I guess they did actually trade up, like I said, but it wasn't to 5 or 6 like I thought they might have to. So that was just funny to see that actually come to fruition. But, yeah, once he was taken, the only guy left there to even justify was Bo Nix. I mean, who's it now? Michael Pratt? Well, he's not. He wasn't going to go in the first. I mean, there comes
Spencer
a point.
Rattler.
Spencer Rattler. I mean, I guess we could hear his name tonight. We'll hear his name tonight. But that was what it was. Is Sean Payton needed a quarterback, and there was one guy remaining that he happened to actually like, and so they went with Bo Nix. But, yeah, that seemed awfully high, and that was one of those moves that a lot of, I guess, just instant reaction kind of balked at. And so that's one that you circle, and you look back in a couple years, and that's either a Zach Wilson-type pick or it's one where he's going to be like, listen to me, that's why I'm Sean freaking Payton, and I know what I'm doing with quarterbacks. But
Zach Wilson's a teammate with him now, right?
Yeah, he is.
In Denver.
But he was a big draft bust is what he was before being his
teammate.
teammate.
Stidham is also on the roster at that quarterback. That'll be interesting who comes out of that mix and who ends up being their starter.
I'm just saying it's interesting that Jordan Travis is not mentioned, and he beat Jaden Daniels twice. He beat Drake May once.
Yeah, Garrett, hey, by the way, what say you? I saw 3 LSU players go very high. All of them spectacular weapons, including the quarterback and 2 receivers.
Correct.
How in the hell did LSU lose a game?
Just absolutely terrible defensive play.
Say, how many defensive draft picks did they have in the first round last night?
They had none. You're going to have Mekhi Wingo that's in the draft that he'll probably get selected tonight or possibly tomorrow. But, yeah, the defensive play was pathetic. The running back play, they had no Jaden Daniels did everything on the ground. There was no way to alleviate the pressure from that. So there was just little intangible things there, and I hope you've got to fix it. You've got to fix it because it's inexcusable to have that much talent.
If they're going to get people picked, it's going to be defensive linemen, corners.
You would think.
So here are the and I know, Craig, you brought this up, but this is a neat nugget to me. The conferences in the first round, SEC at the top, not a surprise. Look at a conference that no longer exists. Had a team play for the national title and also had 8 first-round picks. And we knew that. They were loaded last year, not just a quarterback. They were loaded across the board, and yet they could not find a way to understand what their, I guess, clout might have been because they were arrogance. But there's 8 in the Big Ten, ACC, and the Big 12, the 5 largest conferences, with at least 4 of them still left. That's how the first round went.
You said the word death by arrogance. I mean, that's what it was, and that was clearly what it was in the end. But, yeah, there's a lot of mourning from Pac-12 fans, rightfully so. You see something like that. You see somebody in the college football playoff final competing for a national championship, and all of that is for naught in the long run of the Pac-12. So hell of a goodbye year, hell of a year to go out. I mean, about as good as you could have expected or hoped for, other than Washington winning the title or somebody other than Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman, and certainly they had contenders for that as well. Bo Nix, Michael Penix were right there in the mix for it. So, it was if you were hoping for a great send-off, I think you got it. But, yeah, it's also depressing, and it pisses you off if you're a Pac-12 fan that you have this kind of success and you have more coming down the pipeline potentially, and it's all going to be occurring in other leagues because of arrogance, number one, and a variety of other factors that trickle down as well. So I've seen a lot of that, last night, and rightfully so. 8 first-round picks is a big dadgum deal, and that's what they'll go out with. So a really nice number, but, the end of an era to be sure.
Byron Murphy, not a surprise, went midway through the first round, had a hell of a year, heck of a player, and then obviously the Big 12 with 3 names, including what I thought, and I remember, I don't know, Paul, if it was you or whoever else it was, that said Kansas City should get Xavier Worthy.
Well,
and they traded up, and they got him. And one of the tweets last night that I saw, this was on mentioning when I was sitting there looking at some of the reviews this morning, that a general manager in the AFC West F me when they saw that Worthy was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, look, and the thing about that is, like, you go and you play for Patrick Mahomes, you don't have to be really good right away. You can just kind of be good at your thing before you get good at all of it. My concern with Worthy is just he's a little dude, and
throw 3 times for 113 yards and a touchdown of 56 among those numbers.
Yeah. So, those things will be I think he'll be fine. Special teams, again, he's another guy whose value increased to me with the new kickoff rule, in that if you have multiple guys who can take back the kickoff, or you can put on the kickoff team that you can run actual plays out of that formation now. We saw some like reverses and end around kind of things in the XFL a year ago that worked out really well. The more cool things you can do off of that, the better. And so his value's up. Again, if he can stay healthy and then learn, how to be an NFL wide receiver, he's going to be a weapon. I don't think he's going to be Tyreek Hill, because I think Tyreek Hill's a bit unique in what he can do, but he's certainly that kind of fast.
The Tyreek Hill with the quick twitch is what seems like is the difference there. Craig, what do you think? Kansas City, Mahomes has now what? Hollywood Brown. There was another receiver that they picked up.
Well, they have Rashee Rice eventually.
Rice, I don't know about that. And now you have Xavier Worthy. I saw where Mahomes had those sunglasses look. They've won a lot of world championships, and when you get into that kind of run, this is the kind of move you make.
Yeah, it's a luxury to have, but they did need some help at wide receiver. They clearly missed Tyreek Hill. As good as they still are, they still miss a weapon like him, and he's not a carbon copy like you said, but he's a burner who's the fastest 40 time in combine history, as you heard mentioned quite a bit last night, and he's a deep threat. He's a guy who can make big plays. He's super fast. To reiterate that's just his biggest trait. But, yeah, Xavier Worthy is a really good wide receiver who's landing in a perfect spot. I can't imagine he's any more thrilled than had anybody else. I just can't imagine how thrilled he is, I guess is what I'm trying to say, when he got the phone call and it's the freaking Kansas City Chiefs of all teams to go play in that offense and play for Patrick Mahomes. Yep. What more could you ask for? And it does feel like Kansas City just sat on a horseshoe one day and, have been just blessed ever since. That pick of Patrick Mahomes completely changed the entire everything about that organization, and they don't seem to miss now. They don't seem to ever falter. Even when things don't work out, they work out for them in the long run somehow or another anyway. So, yeah, they've been blessed, and there is no end in sight to their reign of terror. You forgot a little guy by the name of Travis Kelce is also part of those weapons. I know you're just mentioning wide receivers, but, of course, he's
kind of one
there and very much a wide receiver in some ways. So, yeah, Mahomes has got another toy, and we'll see what else he's got by the end of the weekend. But it does seem unfair, and just the dumbest part about it is who gave them the pick to go get Xavier Worthy.
Buffalo.
It's the Buffalo Bills, and I've seen some funny reactions from some of their fans' live streams of what their initial reactions were when that pick came down. It was just funny to see some of those, and just the disbelief or the anger, or just laugh after a while, because it's just like, of course that's how it happened. We just gave the Chiefs Xavier Worthy. What are we doing here? So yeah, that's a pick that's going to reverberate for a while, and we'll see if he can help them add to the Lombardi case, but it really revolves around that quarterback. You give him weapons, he's going to get the most out of them. So Xavier Worthy is a guy that I'd circle about, having a pretty nice rookie year. And, when you start to do your little fantasy lineups and who could be the breakout guys in year one, well, pairing that speed with Patrick Mahomes and that offense, that's going to be pretty scary, I would think.
Two different players drafted whose fathers had played in the NFL. Chargers drafted Notre Dame offensive lineman Joe Alt. His dad, John, played with the Chiefs. And then also Marvin Harrison Jr., selected number 4 overall. And Marvin Sr., of course, had a great career with Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts, came out of Syracuse.
So, Amanda, we were watching the draft last night, and I said, there goes Marv Jr., and she goes, is his dad not there? And they, the hug was so quick, and Marvin Harrison was off camera so much, they had to go back and show it, because I guess it was NFL Network at the time. They saw him get up, and he high-fived everybody and hugged, and then you could tell they're well, we definitely need to go make the point that the Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison is here with his son, but he was so quick to get off camera. It was wild.
Yeah, he's not looking for that attention. That's very clear. But yeah, he had a cool Junior had a cool chain and pendant that he had put together. That was cool. Had a cool story. It's in kind of a life story, I guess, in some ways, right? The Pop Warner and to where he is now, and
to the Lion King.
It's the Lion King and all that incorporated. I thought was it's a really creative kind of thing that you had there on the red carpet, and just the kind of fashion point of view of last night. So yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a stud, and He's obviously got good genes. We'll see how he and Pop stack up when all is said and done their careers, but he's obviously got huge shoes to fill because his dad was a menace and very, very good. But, yeah, I think Junior's going to be A-OK, and Kyler Murray's got a fun weapon to play with, and hopefully that means something good for the Cardinals because they're just kind of there right now, it feels like. But this ought to add a little bit of juice.
This was the most offensive players ever chosen in the first round, 23 of the 32. The record before was 19, most recently in 2009. And so a heavy dose of the offensive players, including quarterback after quarterback. Harrison interrupted that, then quarterback and quarterback.